Okay, guys, welcome back to another episode of Live Wire. I am your host, Jared Moore, and Live Wire is a program where we take your questions from the chat. We're having a little bit of difficulties with Dr. Kunkle's webcam tonight, so it may look a little weird. And
Sorry, everyone.
Mr. Trey Clegg is stuck in traffic, but he's going to jump into the meeting if he is able to make it when he gets to a safe place, and we'll just let him into the meeting. With that being said, tonight we're going to be talking about a special choral arrangement that Dr. Kunkle is working on. And if you haven't caught Dr. Kunkle on any of our previous live wires, she is a Mvskoke singer, actress, composer, poet, like a veritable font of the artistic creations. Oh, here's Mr. Clegg. Let me admit him. All right. Mr. Clegg, we are actually live right now, just to give you a heads up. So,
Hello.
thanks for joining us tonight, Dr. Kunkle and Mr. Clegg.
It's a pleasure.
Appreciate it, Jared.
Inga. So I guess to start off with, I was going to have you, Mr. Clegg, kind of explain what are the Trey Clegg Singers for somebody who doesn't know who they are, what their philosophy is, and everything, because I think it's really interesting.
Thank you. First of all, please call me Trey. I
Sure.
don't think anybody, when somebody says Mr. Clegg, I look for my dad. I am so honored and thrilled to be here with you. This is wonderful. The Trey Clegg Singers are Atlanta's premier multicultural chorus. I started the organization in 2016. I am a professional organist and church musician and choral singer in the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra Chorus and Chamber Chorus here. And I conduct in one of Atlanta's major downtown churches. But I wanted to start a chorus 7 years ago that truly represented Atlanta's international multicultural population, because we are rather diverse here. And so when I started it, it really caught on immediately. And so we've been very blessed to have many opportunities. A couple of years ago, we were on national television to sing for the 90th birthday of Ambassador Andrew Young, and who is incidentally one of the senior staff members of my church, where I'm the director of music in downtown Atlanta. And then most recently, we were awarded a grant from the National Endowment for the Arts to research, study, and perform music by Indigenous Native American countries.
Oh, we're dropping out a little bit there. Guys, we're having all types of technical problems tonight. Mr. Clegg, if you can hear me, how did you get in contact with Dr. Kunkle? How did that relationship develop?
So I have she and I have a mutual colleague named Jared Tate, who is a composer.
And a Chickasaw citizen. Yes.
Right. Chickasaw and Cherokee descent. And I contacted him and asked him if he knew of a hotshot Mvskoke composer, because here in Atlanta, we are the home, the original home of the Mvskoke tribe.
Mm-hmm.
So I was so excited to learn about and explore music of the Mvskoke Nation. So he put me in touch with Dr. Kunkle.
Okay. And guys, I just want to remind you, if you're just tuning in, Dr. Kunkle's here. We can hear her, but her video is kind of in and out, so we're just going to roll with it. So Dr. Kunkle, when Mr. Clegg got a hold of you and approached you, what is it for? What is it about? And could you talk a little bit about Mvskokvlke Este'Cate?
Absolutely. So Trey got in touch with me and wanted something specifically about the Mvskoke in Georgia. and what that meant. So what that meant, whether it was about the origins, which I think was important, but even more so now that sovereignty is in place, what that means that we now have that flag back on Georgian lands, and what that means as far as the division between Oklahoma and Georgia. And so to me, that was an impetus to say, okay, I get to write. And that means I get to write text. And from that text, I was able to write the composition. And he gave me some freedom with that. He was happy to allow me to do whatever kind of voicing I wanted to do, whether I wanted to make it with piano or just a cappella. And I decided to go 8-part a cappella voice because I felt like that could be very effective and focus on the text, as well as creating that humanity that comes from a purely vocal selection and work. So if you're interested, Jared, I can read you the poem if that's of interest to.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
I thought that might be worthwhile and kind of tells you a little bit more about the piece in general.
Sure.
Again, sorry about this video.
Oh, no problem.
So, and just to preface this, I've told you this before, but I'm from Ohio, and so I've never actually had the ability to live amongst the tribe. So I've been studying the language on my own, remotely with Mvskokvlke through the language program and some of the other teachers as well.
So, that was going to be my next question after this was, like how because you had mentioned that there was language incorporated into this, and I was going to say, how did that come about? But you go ahead with the poem and we'll get into the language part after that.
Absolutely. Okay. So, Mvskokovlke Este'Cate, our mothers held their tongues. The great removal took our home. Death, fear, and destruction paved the path along the trail of tears from Georgia to Oklahoma. Hawks flew overhead, Ayo. Fast water flowed and was crossed, Uewa. Mvskokvlke Este'Cate. Protect the children, keep them safe, make Oklahoma home. From Okmulgee to Okmulgee, make into Tulsa. Etowah to Broken Arrow. Generations pass, full of remembering, full of legacy. Sovereignty, finally, the flag on Georgian land. Mvskoke Toes, I am Mvskoke. In Oklahoma, Mvskoke Toes. In Georgia, Mvskoke Toes. We return home, Mvskokvlke Este'Cate. Removed, now returned. We exist and remain. We can go home. We are citizens of the world. We are still here. Mvskoke Toes, Mvskokvlke Este'Cate. We are still here. And for anyone who doesn't speak the language, Mvskokvlke refers to Mvskoke people. Este'Cate is native people. Ayo is hawk. Uewa is water. And Mvskoke Toes is I am Mvskoke. So those are the phrases in Mvskoke that are used in the work.
Awesome. So with the language, when you're, and for you guys out there, I forgot to mention this earlier, there is a link to the Trey Clegg Singers website in the description of this video if you want to click that and go check them out. There is a link to Dr. Kunkle's website in the description of this video. For this a cappella performance, or this composition, I guess I would say, because it hasn't been performed yet, right? Is that correct?
Right.
Correct.
Okay. So how did you work with Mvskokvlke? Is it something with, and I should mention to the audience too, we have a playlist that is a online version of the first level of the language course that was done during COVID. If you guys want to go check that out, that has Mvskokvlke on it if you guys want to do that. And then the language program periodically has online courses. But how did you work with Mvskokvlke? Did you take one of those classes, or how did that work out?
So I've been taking language classes pretty much since around the beginning of the pandemic. And I've just been taking them whenever I can, which is as frequently as possible, up to 3 times a week. Mm-hmm. And so it started out, very simply learning the alphabet and, little by little trying to build vocabulary and learn sentence structure and things like that. So I still do that. And I've done that ever since I learned about the classes, really. And so this is just what I have picked up thus far that I was able to incorporate in the poem. I did get clarification between Owa and Uewa, and that was really the only thing I needed to clarify in the class. And so other than that, everything has been just little by little trying to learn the language. I didn't ask her specifically to go over and work on translation for me or anything. This is just my own knowledge from taking the class, which if anyone's watching, you're Mvskoke or want to learn Mvskoke and you're not Mvskoke, it is available to have anyone learn online.
Absolutely. And you guys can go to the Mvskoke Nation's website, and they have a link there to the language program, and get in touch with them. Have you told them that this is happening, because they might want to come see it or publish it on there?
I have not mentioned it yet, but I'm hoping that I can send them all this link that, with this lovely video of my face, not me, and I can send that to the
Awesome.
language department.
Yeah,
I hope so. And I'm really hoping that this is something that, I've learned so much about my culture and heritage from afar and applied it within my own life. And I hope that that is something that more people can do who are not directly in Oklahoma especially, but also in Georgia. I mean, I think that the Mvskoke that are in Georgia have a very different experience than the ones who are in Oklahoma. So I think that the more we can bridge that divide, the better off all of us will be.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Clegg, when is this going to be performed? Is this for a festival, this composition? And can people see it? Is it going to be online anywhere? Is it something where you got to go somewhere? Can you give us some information on that front?
Oh, absolutely. Sure. The piece will be premiered on Sunday afternoon, May 5th, at my church, where I'm the director of music, which is a historically African-American church, incidentally, in downtown Atlanta. It's a historic national landmark. And this concert will be a concert of all indigenous Native American music by various composers from various nations. And this is in fulfillment of our grant that I mentioned that we were awarded from the National Endowment for the Arts.
Awesome. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted.
No, I'm sorry. No, to answer your other question, it will be live streamed that day.
Okay. And is that going to be on you guys' website, or is it going to be on YouTube? Where would they go to get that?
On our YouTube channel.
Okay, great. And guys, after we're out of this interview, I'll go hunt that YouTube channel up, and I'll put a link to it in the description of this video so you guys can tune in for that. And you said it's May 4th, is that correct?
It's Sunday afternoon, May 5th.
May 5th, okay. All right, so May 5th is when that's going to happen. So what is the logistics of this? Dr. Kunkle, are you going to go direct this performance? Or are you just creating it, composing it, and then the Mr. Clegg and the singers are going to do it? Are you going to fly in? How's that going to work out for the day of?
I absolutely would have been flying in, except I'm already going to be engaged singing another one of my compositions for my company in Delaware at the same day. So unfortunately, I can't be there. There is a subsequent performance as well that I also can't be there because I will be in the wrong side of the country. But Trey would probably love to tell you about that too. It's quite an honor that I'll be able to have that piece performed at this festival or this conference that he is planning on having it performed at.
All right. Do you want to field that, Dr. Clegg or Mr. Clegg?
Sure. So after we premiere the piece on May 5th in the concert of Native American choral music, we will perform Dr. Kunkle's piece again in June at the Chorus America Conference. It's a national conference of American choirs, and the Trey Clegg Singers has been selected to be one of the headliner featured choral ensembles at this conference.
Wow. Do you know when in June? Is it at the end of June?
It's beginning of June.
Okay.
Our performance is Saturday night, June 8th, and it's this year hosted in Atlanta. It's a different city every year, and this year it's Atlanta.
I gotcha. Well, the reason I was asking about that is just because at the end of June is also the Mvskoke Nation's big festival that we have. So
yes, right.
One of the things that occurs to me too, mentioning the festival, is so I'm assuming there's a written component to this, the poem that you read, and then there's also a musical component. If somebody at the Nation or a choral group or something down here wanted to get a copy of this to maybe try to perform it at festival or something like that, how would they go about that, Dr. Kunkle?
Well, one of my very first questions to Trey was, may I retain copyright? And he said, oh my gosh, yes, thank you for asking. Because not everybody who commissions a piece will let you retain your own copyright. And so, yes, if someone, it is currently not published, and Trey gets, of course, the premiere rights. So, they'll be doing that, and that's very soon, so that'll be lovely. But yes, afterwards, if anyone wants to get in touch with me, they can do so through my website. That's probably the easiest way. There's a contact right there on the website where you can just email me directly, and I can see about how to make that work. So yeah.
All right, great. And while I've got you here in this interview with Dr. Kunkle too, one of the ongoing themes through all of our times I've had you on the program is talking about Jared Tate's composition, and when is that going to be ready? So I would be remiss if I didn't ask about it. So.
I actually had a hour-long conversation with Jared this morning, and I said in my phone call, I'm having this interview tonight with Jared Moore, and he is going to ask me about Shell Shaker. He's going to ask me about Shell Shaker. And the fact of the matter is, and I am happy to tell you this, and I wish you could see my face because I'm smiling. I am so delighted. We will be premiering it in Oklahoma City in October.
All right. Hey, that's great.
Right in the backyard of all of the nation. And, we are thrilled about it because the representation in this show will have Jared as Chickasaw, of course. I'm Mvskoke. Kate Morton is Cherokee. We will have Mark Billy, who's Choctaw, and we will also have Grant Youngblood, who is Lumbee. So awesome. All of us will be in that production, and I sang through my part today, and Jared did not make it easy on me. It is a hard piece, but it is epic. It is a beautiful, wonderful piece. So Loxie Shali is going to be the Chickasaw, and it is in Chickasaw for anybody who's interested. In October, I believe it's one night only for that, but I am sure there will be subsequent performances at other times. But that will be the premiere, and that will involve Margaret Wheeler, I believe, as well for costumes. It'll be concert version, but it'll be costumed, and she is Chickasaw as well, I believe.
Awesome.
I'm pretty sure Chickasaw. So yeah.
And what's the venue? Do you know what the venue? Do you guys have a venue yet?
Oh my gosh, I should. I really should. I'm not 100% sure, so I don't want to say anything.
When we get closer to October, I'll be getting in touch with you anyway to see if we can get Mr. Tate on.
That I would love to, that I was sure you would love to have him on as
Absolutely.
well. And maybe we can get some of the other singers for you as well. So
awesome.
We'll see.
That would be great. Well, I want to thank you guys. I want to remind the audience. I don't see any questions in the chat, but if you guys have any questions, you could pop them into the chat. We're about 18 minutes into the interview, and we're going to go normally less than 30 minutes, so you need to hurry up and get your questions in there. If you have any questions, is there anything that we haven't talked about with this project or this performance that's coming up that you guys think is important that we need to mention?
I think one thing that's really interesting is the way that Trey went about this for getting the NEA grant for it to do Indigenous choral music as a whole. He's done, and correct me if I'm wrong, Trey, at least one work by a Native composer on every concert this season. Is that correct? Or two?
Yeah.
Okay. And then this culmination project is really exciting because it will be all this Native and Indigenous choral music, but also then this premiere as well, which, and Trey and I've talked about, and I think it's a go, that they will also feature my art song, Reclaim the Land, on it, which I wrote for Yellowstone 150th anniversary. We've talked about as well. So if anyone's interested in hearing that, you can hear my premiere of that on my YouTube page. So it's all out there. All you have to do is Google us, and we're open books online. We want the world to know what we're doing. We want to represent, and Trey has really just gone above and beyond to make sure that this representation's happening through his organization, which I don't think we see nearly enough, and I think it's really exciting. So that's the one thing I really want to mention about this particular endeavor.
Absolutely. Mr. Clegg, since you've had previous performances where you've included Native choral music in the Atlanta area, what has the response been to that? Do people love it, or are they kind of ambiguous about it?
Oh, they love it. It's been overwhelming. And honestly, I mean, I'm not being funny, but a lot of it's in the way, in the spirit in which it's presented, and the
Mm-hmm.
quality in which it's presented as well. And I don't just perform and just leave it there. I educate as I go.
Mm-hmm.
So, I share what I've learned in my research over the last year, uh, about the works, about the nations, about the composers, because I want audiences to know. Um, and the only way we can make headway and make changes is to educate. You see, so my parents instilled a profound respect and love for indigenous heritage on in these lands from the time I was born. So this is, I feel like my whole life's journey has led me to this moment.
Awesome. Uh, and so, one other question I had about the specific composition, the choral composition. Um, uh, Once the performances are all over, is this something where it's like uh, people will always need to come to you, Dr. Kunkel, to get a copy of it, or are you going to make it for free, or like what's the idea for the actual sheet music and stuff after the fact?
Sure. So normally, I mean, the various channels could be different. Sometimes people put things available on their websites.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in a perfect world, I'd be able to get it published, and then people could buy through the publisher.
Mm-hmm.
That's the ideal, but we'll see where it goes. I mean, there has to be interest in it, and I hope there will be. Um, but I wrote this, and I write most of what I do from my perspective as a Muskogee to tell the story of the Muskogee to be sung by anyone. So
Mm-hmm.
even the land, I added different pronouns if there's somebody who feels that like it would be awkward for them to sing with, we, and to change it to they, things like
Mm-hmm.
that. Same thing for this. It is meant to be sung by anybody and everybody, and I hope it will be. Trey's got this wonderful situation where it is a multicultural choir, but I hope that anyone would feel that this is a story that needs to be told. And it is, we are still here, we are still here. And specifically in relation to the Mvskokvlke, the Muskogee people. But the story, it resonates throughout American history. We would not be here and be able to tell these stories if we hadn't endured the Trail of Tears, if our mothers'
Mm-hmm.
mothers had held their tongues. And I meant that two ways. That they kept to themselves and did what they had to do to survive, but they also kept our language, which was so important. And language is the key to culture in so many ways. So, I was
Absolutely.
just having this conversation, and the other day, my daughter and Trey and I were just talking about this. My daughter loves Disney, right? So
Mm-hmm.
she always has Disney songs to her. But last night I sang a couple pieces to her, and then she asked for a third, and I expected Frozen. I expected it, and she asked for Muskogee Lullaby, and it was just like, it touched my heart so deeply. And we sang it together twice, and then she sang it back to me, and she's 4, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have that growing up. My
Yeah.
parents probably would have loved to have given that to me, but they couldn't. And now I'm slowly able to give that back to her. And that's that kind of, we've gone through so much. We've gone through this Trail of Tears. We've finally come back to getting to the point of sovereignty again.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, and having our own say in our own real government. And I've had my vote since I was 18, and my daughter will have her vote when she's 18 because she's a citizen too. And that is mind-numbingly important
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
And having, it's not just representation, it's having a voice. And
Yes.
I get to be a voice for our people. And it's so profoundly important. And there's a lot of power with it, and there's a lot of responsibility. But it's also just, it makes me so happy that I can be a voice. And so that is something that, had Jared not introduced Trey to me and vice versa, that wouldn't have happened if Trey hadn't had the trust in me to put together this piece. And now to be able to bring it to the greater Atlanta community and hopefully far beyond. I mean, that's a wonderful, wonderful gift that I've been given.
Yes.
And so
Absolutely.
that's what's really so important to me, is that I get to have these moments where I bring forth what's important to me and what's what's important to hopefully the tribe and the people as well, on a level that maybe hasn't been done before. And to my knowledge, I don't know that anything choral in the classical Western way of doing things has been done in any semblance of Muskogee. And if it has, it's possible, but I only know really of church hymns. And so
Yeah.
it's to have something like 8-part a cappella telling our history, I haven't seen that. And so
Yeah.
for me, it's groundbreaking and it's important. And it's something I hope that I can keep building on throughout my career.
Absolutely, and that's why I was asking about that too, is because from my perspective, I think it would also be interested to incorporate some of what you're doing with maybe even the Challenge Bowl. Like if the language program got in touch with you or something, they might be able to work out something, because that there's a lot of sections of the Challenge Bowl that talk about contemporary language where you could see it or hear it, or things that are in the government, who is the chief, and those things. And some of the stuff you're doing should be folded into that too, because I think song is very important to everybody for all ages, but even more so to children when they're learning the language.
Absolutely, 100%. And I'm seeing that now with my own child. I mean, if you put something to a melody, it resonates. It always does.
Yeah.
And if you do language, I mean, she knows more Muskogee now than almost as much as I do now. I mean, she knows a lot because she listens and she hears it, and they pick up things so quickly, quickly. And it's really exciting. It's really exciting. It's tragic in its own way that it has to be done this way, but it's never been an option before, at least not from my family, not from my line. And and I go way back. I've got Harjo in my line, I've got Posey in my line, I've got Mingo from the Chickasaw part. I've got all of this, but I wasn't able to have that on my own as a child, and now it's something that we can do because of technology, and that's really exciting.
Yeah,
and it's so important.
I want to give a shout out to the language program and Mahaya Becky too for everything that they did during COVID and the pandemic, because their online classes and stuff went out to so many people, and it really jump-started a whole really kind of a revitalization on the language front. So
100%. And they have a new website, brand new website.
They do.
If anyone doesn't know, it's fantastic. If you're a citizen, you can get full rights to use the whole website. It's really, really awesome.
Yeah, and an app. Mr. Clegg, I think earlier I was asking if there's anything that we need to mention about this that we haven't mentioned, and I think I stepped on your answer, but is there anything else that you'd like to add that maybe we haven't talked about?
I was just going to highlight that some of the tribes, nations represented in this upcoming concert are Muskogee, of course, Cherokee, Chickasaw, Cree, from Choctaw, and Navajo. So,
awesome.
And my singers are learning all these different languages.
Great. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on the program tonight, guys. We're at 28 minutes. I don't see any questions in the chat. When this streams live, I'm going to put a link to the Trey Clegg Singers group's YouTube page in the description, guys. So if you want to check out the actual live version of it, and then after it's live, if there's still a link up, I'll put a link in the descriptions video so you can check out the performance if you're watching this a year from now or something. And with that being said, thanks so much for being on tonight, guys. I really appreciate it.
We appreciate it too. We're so excited to have this opportunity to share this. And the very first thing I said to Trey is, I want to see if we can get on Live Wire so we can share this with the tribe. This is so important. And and Jared, you've been amazing. Every time, you're always so supportive of everything I'm doing. I appreciate it very much. So Mado, appreciate you. And Mado, to everyone listening, I hope you all will tune in and check it out when it's time.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see you guys next time. Normally, I tell you what's coming up, but I'm not seeing anything on my board this week. I am trying to schedule some stuff. So, but you guys, next week, there's probably going to be a lawyered up because of some of the updates on the Douglas case. So keep an eye out for that next week. I don't know a day yet, but we're definitely going to need to do a lawyered up. So, but with that being said, we'll see you guys next time. Mado Hadum Chihichat, Lees.